I stood on the back patio of the rental house in the redwoods, wind pushing the hem of my coat against my calves, and watched Milo chase the tennis ball into the ferns again and again. The fog was thick enough to blur the tops of the trees, and I felt the damp seep through my socks. Behind me, the rest of the barbecue guests were laughing too loud. Someone had turned the music up, and I could smell wood smoke from the fire pit mixing with the pine. I turned to Rowan, who was balancing a paper plate of grilled peaches and goat cheese. He had been quiet most of the afternoon, answering questions with one word, smiling only when the host, Cass, poured him another drink. I poked his shoulder with the back of my hand. "If I ever leave you, it will only be for Milo," I said, loud enough for half the deck to hear. "He is the only one who never rolls his eyes at me." Cass snorted. Rowan did not. He set the plate on the railing, wiped his fingers on a napkin, and looked at me with the same stillness he used when negotiating contracts at work. The chatter around us dropped a notch. "You are serious?" he asked. I laughed. "It is a joke, Rowan, relax." He stared for one more beat, then turned to Cass. "Can I borrow your spare leash?" Cass blinked but disappeared into the house. Rowan walked past me down the steps and called Milo. My pulse skipped. I followed him onto the needle-strewn path. He crouched, clipped the leash onto Milo's collar, and straightened. "Here," he said, holding the loop toward me. "You want to stay for the dog. You got him. I am taking the rest." The music inside kept thumping, but the deck had gone quiet. I felt every eye on us. I took the leash because it seemed the only thing to do. Rowan walked back up the steps, spoke to Cass in a voice too low to catch, then moved through the house. I stood in the cold, Milo pressing against my shin, tongue lolling, tail sweeping the dirt. I told myself he would come back in 5 minutes with some dramatic flourish. I waited 10, then 20. Milo whined. I let him inside. The party was still going, but Rowan's jacket was gone from the hook. His car keys were missing from the bowl by the door. Cass handed me a fresh beer. He texted me. "He is grabbing the U-Haul tonight. Said you can keep the dog and whatever is in your closet. Movers come for the rest tomorrow at noon." I laughed again, louder, so they would know I was unbothered. "He will calm down by breakfast." He did not. I slept at Cass' place because the idea of driving home to an empty house felt pathetic. At 7 in the morning, I drove to the bungalow on Alder Street. The driveway was blocked by a 20-foot orange truck. 2 men in matching gray shirts were wheeling out Rowan's leather reading chair, the one I always said looked like a midlife crisis in furniture form. I watched them angle it through the doorway, careful, practiced. The lead guy nodded at me like I was any other neighbor. I stepped inside. The living room was a grid of lighter rectangles on the floor where rugs and bookcases had been. The wall above the couch was bare. The photograph of us in Lisbon, wind-burned and laughing, was gone. Milo trotted room to room, sniffing, confused. I called Rowan, straight to voicemail. "I texted this is childish. Call me." No reply. I drove to our favorite coffee cart on the edge of the park. Rowan was not there. I walked Milo around the duck pond, rehearsing apologies that still sounded like accusations. I told myself he was bluffing until the moment I opened the hall closet and saw the empty hooks where his camera bags used to hang. The only thing left was my winter coat and Milo's spare leash. I went to the office, but my boss took one look at my face and told me to work from home the rest of the week. I sat in the echoing house and scrolled through photos on my phone, searching for evidence that we had been happy. In every picture, Rowan looked at me like I was the only moving part of the world worth tracking. I had not noticed. I sent another text, "I am sorry about the joke. It was mean. Let us talk." The response came after dinner, a single line, "The movers will finish tomorrow. Please be out from 9 to 11. I called my mother. She sighed through the line. "You belittled him in front of people." Repeatedly. "What did you expect? He knows I did not mean it." "Honey, you have been meaning it every time you said it. You just expected him to take it." I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it. I thought of the way Rowan flinched when I teased him about his thinning hair, the way he went quiet when I rolled my eyes at his new hobby of learning Portuguese. I had catalogued those reactions as adorable weaknesses, proof he loved me enough to absorb the hit. I never asked what it cost him. Next morning, I stood on the sidewalk and watched the movers load the last of the bedroom set. Rowan arrived in his hatchback. He wore the gray sweater I had bought him in Montreal. He looked rested, like a man who had slept 8 hours without waking once. I stepped in front of him. "Can we please talk?" He glanced at his watch. "I have a flight at 3. "To where?" "San Miguel de Allende. New job starts Monday." I felt the sidewalk tilt. "You already accepted a job?" "I accepted it 3 weeks ago." "I was waiting for the right time to tell you. He looked past me at the truck. You made the decision easier. The movers closed the rolling door. The driver handed Rowan a clipboard. He signed with a quick, sure stroke. I watched the truck pull away, carrying half my life down Alder Street and disappearing around the corner. Rowan turned back to me. I left Milo's vet records on the counter. New tags came in yesterday. Rowan, please. He opened the car door. Milo, sitting beside me on the grass, whined and leaned forward. Rowan knelt, scratched the dog behind the ears. Take care of her, buddy, he said softly. Then he stood, looked at me one last time without anger, only a clear, almost gentle finality, and drove away. I stayed on the sidewalk until the sound of the engine was gone. Milo rested his chin on my knee. The morning sun cut through the redwoods and warmed the back of my neck. I felt hollowed out, like the movers had taken not just furniture but the air itself. I walked the neighborhood for hours, Milo trotting beside me. I passed the coffee cart again. The barista, a girl with silver hair, asked where my other half was. I could not answer. That night I sat on the bare living room floor with a single lamp plugged into the wall. Milo lay with his head on my thigh. I scrolled through Rowan's Instagram for the first time in months. There was a photo posted that afternoon airplane wing against a pink sky, caption reading next chapter. 73 likes and a string of congratulatory comments from people I had never met. I clicked on the profile of the woman who had left the heart eyes emoji. She was a landscape architect in Mexico City. Pretty, smiling in every shot. I turned the phone face down. Milo sighed in his sleep. The house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming. I had joked for years that the only reason I stayed was for the dog. Now the dog and I were the only ones left, and the joke was not funny anymore.